Utah Valley University. Bright lights, cameras rolling, and a crowd buzzing with excitement. Charlie Kirk, the bold, brash 31-year-old conservative activist, was there to do what he always did best: speak his mind, stir up the crowd, and rally his followers under the banner of Turning Point USA. But within minutes, everything changed. But before we continue, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more updates. Gunfire split the night air. Screams replaced applause. People scattered as panic rippled across the open-air event. And at the center of it all lay Charlie Kirk, lifeless, struck down by bullets that no one saw coming. The shooter was quickly identified as 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. But in the weeks that followed, this case grew far beyond a simple headline about violence at a political rally. It became something much darker, something people whispered about in hushed tones. Was this just one man's act of rage, or was it something bigger? A courtroom bombshell. Fast forward to the packed courtroom weeks later. Journalists crammed shoulder to shoulder. Supporters of Kirk, opponents, conspiracy hunters, and even ordinary citizens who just wanted to know the truth. All eyes were fixed on Tyler Robinson. And then he dropped the bombshell. "It was a planned hit," Robinson said, his voice low but steady. Gasps erupted from the gallery. The judge slammed the gavel, demanding order, but the words had already ignited like wildfire. A planned hit? Who would want Charlie Kirk dead badly enough to orchestrate an assassination? Robinson didn't stop there. He went on to claim that he was ordered by powerful backers to target Kirk. But when pressed, when everyone in that courtroom leaned forward, desperate to hear the names, he refused. He smirked, shook his head, and said nothing more. The weight of the charges. Let's pause for a moment and take this in. Tyler Robinson isn't just some random name pulled off the street. According to police reports, he's facing charges that could end his life behind bars, or worse, aggravated murder, a charge that carries the possibility of the death penalty in Utah. Felony discharge of a weapon causing serious bodily injury. Obstruction of justice. That alone would make headlines. But when you add in the claim of a conspiracy of powerful backers, it shifts the entire narrative. Suddenly, this isn't just about one man pulling a trigger. It's about hidden hands, political agendas, and maybe even state-level players. Think about it. If Robinson is telling the truth, then Charlie Kirk's murder wasn't an isolated act of violence. It was an orchestrated move in a dangerous game of power. The DNA evidence. Skeptical? You should be. Claims of shadowy backers are easy to throw out, but do they hold up under scrutiny? Well, here's where things get messy. According to FBI Director Kash Patel, Robinson's DNA was found at the scene in not one, but two crucial places. 1. On a screwdriver left on a rooftop at the school. 2. On a dark towel wrapped around the rifle used in the attack. Now ask yourself this. If Robinson was simply a lone gunman, why the elaborate setup? A screwdriver on a rooftop? A wrapped rifle hidden away? These details paint a picture not of a rash, impulsive act, but of preparation, planning, deliberate action. And isn't that exactly what Robinson just confirmed in court? Utah Governor's stark warning. Utah Governor Spencer Cox didn't mince words either. On national television, he said Robinson was not cooperating with investigators. Translation: Robinson's not talking. And when suspects refuse to talk, the vacuum of silence gets filled with theories, speculation, and sometimes dangerous half-truths. Was Robinson protecting his so-called backers? Was he afraid of what might happen if he revealed their names? Or, here's a thought, was he bluffing? That last possibility may be hard to swallow given the evidence, but let's not forget. High-profile trials often become stages for attention. Was Robinson simply trying to elevate his own importance in the narrative? The conspiracy question. Here's where the courtroom statement really matters. If Robinson truly had backers, then we're not just dealing with a violent crime, we're dealing with a political assassination. Charlie Kirk wasn't just an activist. He was a face of the conservative youth movement. He was outspoken, controversial, and, depending on which side of the aisle you stood, either an inspiring patriot or a polarizing provocateur. Which raises the obvious question. Who benefits from his death? Was it rival political groups who saw Kirk as a threat? Was it enemies inside his own circle who wanted to silence him? Or was it something bigger, something tied to national or even global players? The beauty and the terror of conspiracy is that it leaves endless doors open. And right now, Robinson's refusal to name names leaves us all standing in the dark, wondering which door leads to the truth. The cliffhanger. So here we are, a young activist shot dead in broad daylight, a suspect caught with DNA evidence linking him to the crime scene, a courtroom revelation that hints at something far more sinister than anyone expected. And yet, the biggest question remains unanswered. Who are the backers Tyler Robinson claims gave the order? That silence is deafening, because until he speaks, or until investigators uncover the truth, we're left with more questions than answers. And in the world of politics, unanswered questions are often more dangerous than the truth itself. Behind the mask, who is Tyler Robinson? Really? Before we get lost in theories and courtroom drama, let's zoom in on the man at the center of it all. Tyler Robinson, 22 years old. A face that, until recently, meant nothing to the broader public. Overnight, though, he became infamous. But who is he? What could have driven someone so young to stand accused of killing one of America's most visible right-wing figures? The media paints him in broad strokes. A lone shooter, an unstable young man, or maybe even a puppet in someone else's political theater. But the truth is always more complicated, isn't it? Neighbors described Robinson as quiet, almost withdrawn. A young man who kept to himself, sometimes working odd jobs, sometimes vanishing for days at a time. Friends, or at least those who once called themselves that, say he had a chip on his shoulder. Always skeptical of authority. Always muttering about how things weren't what they seemed. Sound familiar? It's the same script we've heard in countless other high-profile crimes. A loner, a rebel, a ticking time bomb. But the difference here is what Robinson himself claims. That he wasn't a lone wolf. He was following orders. The psychology of a trigger puller. Here's where it gets chilling. In court, Robinson didn't sound like someone pleading for sympathy. He sounded like someone who believed he was part of something bigger. Think about that for a second. It's one thing for a person to lash out in anger, to snap in the heat of the moment. But when someone insists it was a planned mission, that changes everything. That suggests mindset, preparation, ideology, and, most of all, loyalty to forces outside oneself. Psychologists who've studied similar cases often point out a dangerous pattern. When young men searching for meaning encounter older, more powerful influences, they can become pawns. Was Robinson groomed, coerced, paid? Or did he willingly buy into a worldview that painted Kirk as a target? We don't know. But one thing's clear. Robinson doesn't see himself as a murderer in the conventional sense. He sees himself as part of a mission. And that's terrifying. Charlie Kirk. The man they couldn't ignore. To understand why Kirk might have been in the crosshairs, you need to understand the man himself. Charlie Kirk was not your average political commentator. By 31, he had already become a household name in conservative circles. As co-founder of Turning Point USA, he was a fixture on college campuses, drawing in massive crowds of young people. His critics labeled him a provocateur, a rabble-rouser. His supporters hailed him as a warrior for free speech and traditional values. And whether you loved him or hated him, you couldn't ignore him. That's the thing about figures like Kirk. They create emotional reactions wherever they go. His speeches weren't designed to lull anyone to sleep. They were designed to wake people up, stir emotions, ignite debates, and yes, even provoke outrage. So let's ask the question. Did Kirk's unapologetic style make him a target? A perfect storm of politics and violence. Picture this. A public figure known for sparking controversy, delivering fiery speeches to crowds of energized students. In the background, growing political polarization that feels like a powder keg waiting for a match. Now add a disaffected young man with access to weapons and, if his story is true, guidance from shadowy backers. It almost feels inevitable, doesn't it? Violence has become disturbingly common in political spaces. We've seen rallies turn into battlegrounds, protests escalate into riots, online rhetoric spill into real-world attacks. Kirk's murder is shocking, yes, but in many ways, it fits into a disturbing pattern we've been watching unfold in America for years. Which brings us back to Robinson's statement, "It was a planned hit." If that's true, then Kirk's death wasn't just another tragic flashpoint in a divided nation. It was part of a bigger, coordinated effort to silence a voice that someone considered dangerous. The scene of the crime. Let's return to that night at Utah Valley University. The crowd was young, buzzing, eager to hear Kirk speak. Security was present, but like so many open-air campus events, it wasn't impenetrable. Then shots rang out. Witnesses described chaos. Students ducking under chairs, some sprinting toward exits, others frozen in place. One attendee said she thought it was fireworks at first, until she saw people dropping to the ground. Police swarmed the area quickly, but by then it was too late. Kirk was gone, and the suspect, cornered, identified, and swiftly taken into custody. But here's the haunting detail. Investigators later found that screwdriver on a rooftop and the towel wrapped around the rifle, both tied to Robinson by DNA. Those aren't the kind of mistakes a spur-of-the-moment shooter makes. Those are the fingerprints of someone who prepared, someone who knew the logistics of carrying out an attack. Was he trained? Was he advised? Or was Robinson simply more methodical than anyone realized? When silence screams louder than words. As Robinson sat in court, his refusal to name names echoed louder than any accusation. It wasn't just what he said, it was what he wouldn't say. Think about it. If this were a bluff, wouldn't he have cracked under pressure? Wouldn't he have thrown out at least one name, even if it was a lie? Instead, Robinson chose silence. And silence can be more powerful than testimony. Was it fear, loyalty, or something else entirely? The courtroom erupted not because people believed every word, but because they realized the implications. If there truly were backers, then Kirk's death was more than a crime. It was a message. A warning shot in a larger war being fought behind the scenes. A cliffhanger inside the trial. As the trial continues, the nation waits. The evidence is damning, yes, but the unanswered questions are haunting. Who were the supposed powerful backers? Why target Kirk now, at this moment in his career? And perhaps the most unsettling of all, if Robinson was just one pawn, how many more are out there? The courtroom has become more than a legal battleground. It's become a theater, a stage where the future of political discourse, and perhaps even political safety, is being played out in real time. And the most terrifying part? We're only at the beginning.